Hey everybody, it's AskFat13. Welcome back to another live stream. Let me know how is everybody doing tonight. I hope you guys are doing great. We're going to be doing some RLCS predictions. So European RLCS is back tomorrow with the second event of the season for them. It's going to be exciting to see Karmine Corp return as champions, or perhaps one of the other EU Big Four. We've got Vitality, BDS, Gentlemates. Perhaps one of them will be the ones to take the title instead. It's going to be an exciting time, going to be fun to watch, and I hope you guys enjoy this quick bit of a peek into what the region will be and what my predictions are. Welcome Abax in the chat. How are you doing today? By the way, if you are watching the VOD, if I'm no longer live, you're welcome to skip around, find the part most interesting to you, check out my predictions, and let me know if you disagree in the comments. But for those of you here live, I hope you guys are doing awesome. Abex, how is your evening going? Yes, it's a new microphone. So if I go back to this view, you can probably see something in the bottom here that's new. New microphone. I'm really excited. I'm glad you guys think it's better, because I actually decided to break on it and get the new microphone because the video that I have next, by the way, I've been working on the video now for a bit. The next video is another interview with a pro, and this one's gonna be the biggest video I've ever done. I don't know what I mean by that is I just want to make it as good as it can be, and so I think it deserved a better mic quality, and I am it's gonna be a long video and it's gonna take me a while to make, so it might not come out. I was hoping to get it out this week or next week, and I really want to get it out next week. I just don't know if I'll be able to, but anyway, it's gonna be a fun one. It's gonna be a lot of fun. Hey, welcome Footbay. Thank you for being here. You're up at 3 a.m. Wow. Well, welcome. We're gonna be predicting European RLCS, and you're welcome to let me know what your thoughts are, Footbay. It starts tomorrow. Hey, Sean, it's a new microphone. So, flip side, it's definitely better quality. Maybe, I don't know, that makes me sound different. I don't know if it makes me sound like a kid. Hopefully not. But the video, like I was saying, I got the microphone, which, by the way, the microphone was completely paid for by the support of everyone through all the money that's coming from YouTube. So that first payment came in. I couldn't have done it without all you guys. As anyone that's been a member, a channel member, donated, I appreciate all your guys' support. And today for you, that makes sense. It is today for you, but for me, it's tomorrow. But yeah, it's gonna be fun. Well, I appreciate it, Sean. Oh, that's a good thing, I think. Sounding younger usually is a good thing. But yeah, that's awesome. So, I'm really glad you guys noticed the difference, because again, I got it because I was editing for that video, and I hadn't actually shot all my audio yet, which is good. But I was like, I don't want to sound like that in the video. I want it, which it's been fine, but yeah. So great question. This was it's like pros and cons. I got a, what's the one that everyone gets? It's like it's the one that's really the best advertising. It's, oh man, I'm already forgetting. It's the blue, what's the blue, whatever. I have the box around here somewhere. I can't even see. I have a box and I still don't know. Yeti, Blue Yeti. I knew what it was. It's the Blue Yeti. Sorry. So the thing about the Blue Yeti is I did check a lot of the reviews, and a lot of people say it's like pointless because there's better things that have come out since. But the reality was I could get this local. Like, I actually physically went to a store to get it. I could have got whatever mic off Amazon, but this way, if I want to return it, I just feel more comfortable knowing I could go and return it. But I actually have no problem with it, and I know I'm gonna need to upgrade some point in the future, but this one will last me a while. It might have more echo. That's something I can actually fix. The echo should be fixable. If I haven't messed around with the settings a lot yet. There's so many things you can do in OBS, even like just within OBS. But anyway, all right. The SBM7, no, it's a Blue Yeti. But and again, I saw mixed things. The positives are with something so like long lasting as the Blue Yeti is there's no huge problems with it. It's like a reliable microphone. It's also just not the highest end for the price. It's like a little overpriced is what I read, but I was willing to pay a little bit more just to have it in person and not have to order something. Welcome, Funi. Yeah, I'll mess around with the echo and stuff. And the other thing to point out is it's obviously important for these live streams, but I really was getting it for the videos. But anyway, what are the seeds? Great question, Funky. Number 1 seed, Suh. Number 2 seed, Gentlemates, Vitality, BDS. And if you're scratching your head, that is not a joke. The number 1 seed is Suh. And the reason why is, let's take a quick peek at what the double elimination held. Big surprise, the biggest surprise, honestly. There were a lot of big surprises. The biggest one was that Karmine Corp lost in Game 5 to Suh. So Team Suh, which consists of welcome SWAT, long time no see indeed. And by the way, everyone I want to welcome, I don't know if I've welcomed everyone individually. So, you know, Abax, Ashan, Mystic, Fuppe, Funky, Invincible, Foodie, and SWAT. I appreciate all of you guys being here. It's going to be fun predicting. I'm excited for today's predictions because this is one of the most hard to predict regions there is. And I'm really just realizing Europe is just deep, in my opinion. Well, and this is a great example. Karmine Corp is the better team than Suh. I think we can all agree that. Oh, I mean, the only people that would maybe disagree are the players on Suh, and they should disagree. They should think they're the best. That's fine. But though Mike Boy Tekos, it's a great squad, don't get me wrong, but they are not beating Karmine Corp level, and yet they did. And that's not just on Karmine Corp, although it's definitely partially on them. That's a combination of a peaking Suh, slightly off Karmine Corp, and a format double elimination that can be brutal in that way. I mean, this is like you lose once, you're into the lower bracket. And in Karmine Corp's case, they then had to play, if I find it, Wild. So they actually played a team that made the regional last year. And although this looks like a simple sweep, it was not so simple. They were in multiple overtimes, including a Game 3 overtime where a Wild player disconnected. And if they hadn't disconnected, because the 2v3 went on for over a minute, so if they hadn't disconnected, if they'd had a full 3 players, they might very well have won that Game 3 overtime. And Karmine Corp probably would have won the series, but point being, they won on a disconnect. And the fact that it was even in you know, down to that wire is crazy. What region? I don't want to play guessing games because now I feel bad I probably revealed too much, but I'll just say it because it's probably obvious. So I'm saying this is the biggest video I've ever done. I'm interviewing a pro player that is at the level of making worlds, making majors in the last season, and it's hard to predict this season, but I expect they'll be in the major this season as well. So they are in contention for the major this season. That's all I'll say. But it's going to be a really fun video. I'm going to dive into their entire history, so it's not just going to be, it's going to be the walk around the pitch or whatever I've been calling it with the pros. So I'm going to obviously interview them just personal questions, but I actually had a really long interview that got into their history before that. And so it's kind of going to be a longer documentary than the previous ones have been, because once you have a player with some RLCS history to talk about, it can be a long video. I don't know how long, but this video may end up being over half an hour long, which is why it's going to take so long to edit. But it's going to be a lot of fun. I don't know if it'll actually be over half an hour long, so don't hold me to that, but it could be. I have enough footage. It could be. We'll just see what I end up choosing to, how long I choose to make it. But it's going to be a lot of fun. Guys, it's not a mod. It's going to be, I'll just say it's going to be someone playing in North America. We'll say that. Now I've revealed too much. But anyway, I appreciate it, guys. Thank you, Gurrier Fur, as well. And again, so I want to say it because now we've got a lot of people on. The new microphone came from the support of my channel members and people who had donated in the past. So thank you to all my channel members, most notably Sean, Fooney, and who's been the other, and Hedge. The 3 of them have been members the longest, and supporting me that way is really appreciated. We actually have a bunch of members right now because I got some free ones to give away. But anyway, enough about that. I did give the region, I did, a shot. I said NA. I probably shouldn't have said. I'm saying too much. All right, here we go. Let's finish recapping really quickly. So Team 3 swept Oxygen, which is quite fantastic. Ahmad without green, if he ever reaches land, would feel weird. Oh, you mean Ahmad not on Falcons, Funky? I don't know what you mean. I appreciate it, Slow. Thank you for the compliment. It is a new microphone. So Team 3 swept Auction. That's another kind of upset. I think of it as an upset, but by the numbers, it wasn't an upset. Team 3 was the higher seed. BDS over Caliente. Top Cougars over Solary, but what's not surprising is that Top Cougars beat Solary. It's that Top Cougars beat Resolve and that Solary beat Moist. Now, for anyone that doesn't know who Solary is, let me quickly remind you, this is K-Dop's team. So legendary pro K-Dop, world champion K-Dop, multi-time, 3-time world champion K-Dop, joined by Chaussette and RizFox. Not a bad team, but this is not a team that Moist should be losing to. A Moist that got top 8 last regional. Joyo, Rezi, Oli. That's a bit of a shocker, but they do ultimately drop to Solary. And then that's probably the biggest upset of the day. Moist in lower bracket had to play Resolve because Resolve lost to Top Cougars. And they're out. They're out before the final round. They didn't even make it to that final round. And then the teams that beat Moist, both Resolve and Solary, lost. Resolve lost in Game 5 to Forward, and Solary lost in the lower bracket to Endpoint in a sweep. So a really shocking performance there. And another thing to point, Endpoint actually lost in day 2 and was playing from the lower bracket and even went to a game 3 against Petamkos. So a risky bit of a run there from Endpoint, like a lower bracket run. The other shocking thing is, I said, you know, both Resolve and Moist played each other, and then Resolve also lost out. 100% is also not in the regional. So is Wild, who I already mentioned played Karmine Corp. And then I believe last but not least, there was one other team, if I can find it. I know there were 5. I might have mentioned all 5, but 5 teams from the first regional miss out on the second, and it is such a shocker. The newcomers are Team Husky, Oida, Caliente, and Top Cougars. So it's giving an interesting time. A lot of new teams, some teams, you know, that have kept up this top tier performance. But yeah, it's gonna be a fun one. All right, let me go back to the chat. Not my Moist, yeah, Moist. I mean, a lot of Moist fans are gonna be pretty disappointed. But I think this harkens to the fact that it's in my opinion, is a 4 format. Double elimination would be fine, but they really need pristine seeding. The seeding has to be perfect. And I don't think it is right now, especially the lower seeds is what I'm talking about. The fact that ranked MMR is being used on some of these teams that have bubble and pro players is kind of crazy. And then more importantly than that, it's the fact that some of these matches are best of 3. So, for example, Endpoint here won in a best of 3, as you can see, but they lost in an earlier best of 3. So a team like Endpoint in this lower bracket could have cut out. And that's what I thought was going to happen, is I thought Moist and Resolve were going to win here, and then the loser was going to have to play an Endpoint. That easily could have been the case. Instead, both of them lost. But it all just comes down to it is they need to make all the matches best of 5. They need to improve this seeding, and that's just a minimum. There's a lot of other changes I wish they would make. But anyway. And yeah, so let's get into the matches for day number 1. Probably the most notable is that Caliente squad versus Vitality. Caliente, as someone said in the chat, thank you, Sean, has Sizen on it. So Sizen, Growly, and Pisky will be playing Vitality, which is a spicy round 1 matchup, both because it's Sizen versus, you know, his former team Vitality. And I want to remind folks, he took Vitality to a top 8 at a winter major and then got kicked. And obviously we all know why. It was for Zen. And you can't fault Vitality. It was clearly not a mistake. They won the next major. They won Worlds. They had a perfect split. I say won the major. I mean, that's underselling it. That's how good Vitality was. But at the same time, Sizen wasn't a bad player. They replaced a player that had done well, taken the team to their best performance that season when they were at the Winter Major. And this is his first time getting to maybe get some revenge on his former team. Additionally, you got some fun matchups here, like Gentlemates versus Karmine Corp in round number 1. So another problem, in my opinion, with the way the current system works is when double elimination ends, RLCS currently considers the entire event one tournament. So this is all an open qualifier. And what that means is they don't reseed. They never reseed. So the moment the double elim bracket starts till the end, the seeding is effectively locked. And then when you win or lose, you basically steal that seed, right? And so what that means is in double elim bracket, when the number 1 seeded team loses, which is Karmine Corp, they lose their seed. Steals the number 1 seed. Karmine Corp comes in at seed number 16, and the only reason they're not playing despite being the 16th seed, is they don't allow rematches from the double elim bracket, which is good for round 1 anyway, just for round 1. So they end up playing the number 2 seed, which is Gentlemate. So the top 2 teams from the last qualifier are starting off Swiss. And I don't think I need to explain why that's a bad system. Now, don't get me wrong, it is Swiss, so it'll be able to self-correct, but the fact that one of these 2 teams has to start off 0-1 is frankly unfair to the other lower round 2 teams. I mean, someone's going to be playing a Karmine Corp or a Gentlemates that only lost to another top 2 team, and it's not a great system. Again, it will self-correct, but somebody is going to go 0-2 having lost to the loser of this, and that's what feels unjust, really. So hopefully they fix seeding in future seasons, but we're pretty much stuck that way. Hosky, great question. Team Hosky consists of Pluvo, Grama, and Ethan. Frankly, if I was power ranking, that's the team I might put at 16th, and that's not because they're a bad team. It's because I just don't know them very well. If we take a look at the double elim bracket, Team Hosky in the upper round took out Wild, which is a big win. So we know they can beat other teams that are at least around that top 16 level, although it was a game 5. Then, even more importantly, they took Gentlemates to a game 5. And winning is obviously all important in a game of Rocket League, but going the distance also says something about Hosky. They're obviously not a team to be trifled with. And then they swept their final match against a team that had taken out Stellar Young Guns, a squad I recognize, around that top 24 level. So Team Hosky, certainly not a team to be underestimated. And this kind of goes back to what I said last regional. All 16 teams could make it out of Swiss. And I know that's like a cop-out. That's a give me thing to say. I'm making it sound like I'm giving myself an out. But I truly believe that. I think that EU is so even that you take a look at some of the teams at the bottom of the top 16, like Oida, Hosky. Oida, by the way, Yukio's team, a familiar face we haven't seen since, I believe, early 21-22 season. We haven't seen him in an RLCS event. But he, these bottom teams, your Oida, your Hosky, even your forward can take down a top 8 team. They can take down your Gentlemates, like when Endpoint took down Gentlemates. They can take down your Karmine Corp, like when beat Karmine Corp. So we'll have to see who exactly makes that Swiss, but frankly, it could be anybody. Well, obviously, I'm going to do a prediction here, but I'm just telling you right now, even the teams I predict to go 0-3, have a fair shot at making it out of Swiss if they play well. Gonna go to game 7, probably if it was a semifinal, but this is actually only best of 5 in the Swiss stage, Funky, so it could not go to a game 7. If it goes to a game 7, somebody's messed up, and it's the admins for the match. So fantasy is locked for both regionals, so I've already made my fantasy team, unfortunately. Yo, Funky, you don't have to delete your message, it's okay. I'm just joking around. It's easy to forget, and obviously you just mean they could go the distance, and they probably will go to game 5. All right, that's a fair guess. It's Oida. Hosky took 2 games off Gentlemates. Oh, you're saying the bottom team of the regional? It might be Oida. Obviously, I just explained why Hosky could make it out of Swiss, and I used the fact they like you said they took 2 games off Gentlemates. At the same time, frankly, when I would be power ranking these teams, if I'm just doing it on the spot, like right now, I'm going off names, which is not a good thing to do, but hey, people use paper rankings all the time, and on paper, these players, I've only ever heard of Ethan. I haven't heard of Grama, I haven't heard of Pluvo. On the flip side, I haven't heard of Eugen or Jazzy either, but I have heard of Yukio, a top 4 at Worlds performer, a major winner in non-RLCS major, in the past. So when you look at Yukio, who's been at the top of a LAN with top tier talent, that obviously is a little bit of sway to Oida, but he's not on that level anymore. But you could say the same thing about some of the players on Redemption, like Astral, potentially not on that level. You look at some Mike Boy and Tho, long-time names in the RLCS, and long-time names sometimes take down the Giants. So we'll see how they do. I think that's enough explanation about these early round matchups. I think the finally, I guess the last one I will mention is Magnifico Endpoint. That is a stunner of a round one match. Endpoint can only blame themselves. They obviously dropped to lower bracket early. And so that's why they have a bit of a lower seed, but at the same time, that's just a tough early round matchup with a Magnifico that had their number last qualifier. We'll see if Atomic Sizzy talks continue to dominate them. And with that, let's get into the predictions. Let me make sure this looks fine. We'll do the zoom in thing. That's the wrong button. I want to zoom in a bit. There we go. That should be a better view. Yes. Okay, a little bit better. And then once these round one matchups are done, everything will be on screen. All right, let's get into it. Grandma is a top 50 1v1er who occasionally participates in Fear Show matches. Very nice, Mystic. That's good to know. 1v1. Hey, I think that it's a proven fact that high level 1v1 players, that tends to help in RLCS if you have that experience. So. Makes sense. Didn't do bad in Salt Mine. Gotcha. All right, let's start off with the most exciting one. If you're a fan of underdog runs, Sa versus Hosky, because one of these teams that they're not. Neither of these teams is top 8. I think that's fair to say. No one would be power ranking them top 8 at the very least, but one of them will be in the top 8 in round 2. And I do believe it will be Sun. Now, don't get me wrong. Hosky, not a bad squad. We've already explained why. I'm going to give it a 3-1. We've already explained why Hosky aren't bad. They took 2 games of Gentlemates, but at the same time, you got to give credit where credit's due. Sa actually took out the Giant and defeated Karmine Corp. Hosky just went to a game 5, which is, again, a big deal, but not as big a deal as actually finishing the job, taking them out. And I think Sa are looking good, and they're not going to overlook like some of these top teams like Karmine Corp, Gentlemates. The reason they sometimes lose, I'm not saying it was the case for this qualifier, but sometimes these top teams lose to unexpected, upsets because they underestimated them. Sa are not going to be underestimating anybody. I think they're coming in with an underdog mentality despite the upset, and I think that's going to serve them well in round number 1. Next up, the highlight match of round 1, Karmine Corp versus Gentlemates, and it could go either way. I do believe Karmine Corp will come out on top, but I am going to give it a game 5, and I don't want to underestimate the fact that I think that the big 4 in Europe, which is Gentlemates, Karmine Corp, BDS, and Vitality, the big 4 are a lot closer than I thought when the season began. When the season began, I was like, oh yeah, Karmine Corp and Vitality are going to clear everybody else. And it turns out BDS and Gentlemates are way closer than I thought. And in Gentlemates' case, they've already proven they can beat a top team. They took down Vitality. BDS took Karmine Corp to game 7 as well. So I have full belief that Gentlemates and BDS could get these upsets here and there. In this case, though, I am going to favor Karmine Corp. Next up, Vitality versus Caliente. Like I said, a very spicy matchup with Sizen. And we've seen Vitality struggle early, and I'm going to call it. I know it's crazy, and don't get me wrong. It's not likely. But I think it's possible, and I think it's going to happen. I think Caliente with Sizen get in the head of Vitality. Obviously, it won't impact Zen, but his teammates, Alpha 54, Rodosin, they know Sizen. They know, that they drop Sizen. Maybe it gets to their head if they're in a game 5 scenario and they drop that final critical game and lose in round 1. Next up, BDS versus Redemption. I am going to favor BDS here. I'm going to give Redemption a game because they actually looked a lot better last regional than I personally expected. They did fall short, though, of top 8, and I do think BDS is solid and consistent and will take them down. Next up, Top Cougars versus Forward. A really exciting one. I know Forward did much better last regional, but I'm really high on this Top Cougars squad. Relating Wave hasn't seen a regional for a bit now. If we go quickly look at this top Cougar squad. It's Acro, Toxic, Relating Wave. That not only did they make it through the upper bracket, but they are coached by Gregan, a former world champion coach. And I think that what a coach like that really helps a team come in and prep. And I want to emphasize the importance of prep for these round 1 matches. You know who you're playing. They know that you're playing them as well. So it really, in part, comes down to who preps better. And obviously playing on the day is more important than anything. But I think prep work, it does make a difference. And when you have a top tier coach, it helps the prep be even better. And I think top Cougars can take them down. Next up, Magnifico, Endpoint. A really interesting one. I'm really high on Endpoint, and I have been for a while. But Magnifico, they showed up last regional, and I think they proved me wrong. I think they proved how good they are and how good they will be as we keep going in the season. I think they take down Endpoint in 5. Next up, a really funny one. Belagal versus Oxygen. And you know what's the shocking thing? Is I'm not sure Oxygen actually are the favorites anymore. They've lost a lot of matches that they were supposed to win, and after a certain point, it's like, are they really like a top 8, top 10-ish team, or are they actually not? And we've just overestimated them. I'm not willing to give up on them just yet, though. Again, I talk about prep. I think a team like Oxygen should be favored when they are given time to prep. I'm going to take them 3-1 over Belagal, but Belagal is not a team to be trifled with. They made it to the final round of Swiss last regional, and they should not be underestimated by Oxygen, because if Oxygen do underestimate them, they will lose. Like, to be frank, they can't afford to be underestimating teams, Oxygen, not with how they've been looking. All right, then final matchup, Team 3 versus Oida. I like that Yukio's back, but Team 3 is the clear favorites here. They made top 8 last regional, and they look good doing it. And I think they'll beat them 3-1. Or actually, we had no sweeps first round. I'll call it a sweep. I'll call it a sweep. So we call that one a sweep there. We give it to Team 3, and they advance on to the next round. And actually, I didn't realize by making it a sweep, that actually puts Team 3 as the #1 seed, which unfortunately, in the next round, which unfortunately pits them against Karmine Corp. Ouch. What a reward for sweeping your round 1. And this is what I'm talking about with the seeding. When you have a team like Karmine Corp that's given the poor seeding, it messes with matchups later down the line, and that's why I really don't like the seeding currently. But we move on, and it's unlucky for Team 3, but for Karmine Corp, there really was no bad or good particular luck about it. It's another team they're going to be favored against, and I'm going to give it 3-1. I think Team 3 could take them to a Game 5, but I don't see it. I think Karmine Corp has been pretty dominant recently. Next up, outside, of course, of their loss to SUH, Vitality needs to know Europe is a 10-team region. Hey, maybe. Top Cougars remind me of a... Yeah, they are. It's probably because they're Relating Wave, but I think they are a lot like Quadrant, which means that they're not, in my opinion, they are not going to make the major. But, and obviously, they didn't make Regional 1. But I do think Top Cougars is one of those teams that has an outside chance at making it to top 8, making it to playoffs. All right. Next up here is SUH versus Caliente, and this is actually really exciting. And obviously it's in part because of matchups like Gentlemate's Karmine Corp. But here you have a team that's going to go 2-0 that is not expected, and it's another upset as well. I realize Vitality Caliente. So now both these teams have taken down one of the top 2 in the region to get here. And honestly, could go either way. I'm going to favor SUH ever so slightly because we obviously know that they took down Karmine Corp, and the pressure arguably was higher outside of Swiss, because in Swiss, your round 1, if you lose, not a huge deal. In the double elim, it feels a lot more important to be clinching that match. Magnifico, is it kind of wild to have Magnifico beat Endpoint? Not really. They beat Endpoint last region. But anyway, here we go. BDS versus Magnifico. Ooh, this one arguably could be an upset. I'm going to give it to BDS, but I'm going to make it a Game 5. I think Magnifico really put the fight on, make BDS sweat, and that could have impacts to the next round of seeding. Finally here, Oxygen versus Top Cougars. I made a mistake last regional, and I'm not doing it again. Oxygen, I don't think they're a great team this season. I don't think they're top 8 material. I'm going to give them Game 5 against Cougars, but hey, surprise, surprise, Top Cougars moving on 2-0. Next up here, we have Gentlemates versus Oida. I don't hate Gentlemates. I'm trying to decide if I give them a game, but honestly, and this is maybe just bad luck of the draw because they lost this first round in a sweep, I think they get swept by Gentlemates. Gentlemates come out of the gate swinging after their early loss there to Karmine Corp. Next up, Vitality Husky. Unfortunately, it's going to be a similar fate for Husky. They're going to catch an angry Vitality after how the last round match, and Vitality move on with the sweep. Next up here, Forward Redemption. One of these ones that could be an upset, but I'm going to give it Redemption. I think Forward are a great team, but I see Redemption being able to take that. We'll call it game 5. And then lastly, Endpoint Belagal. Belagal, I don't want to underestimate them too much because we saw what they did last regional and they made it, like I said, all the way to this Swiss round 5. But I see Endpoint clinching up here and really performing a lot better than they did in round 1 where they lost to Magnifico. All right. Oh my goodness. If this actually happens all because Karmine Corp had bad seeding, I will laugh. But somehow, some way, Suh is about to go 3-0 or top Cougars. This would be crazy. This is unbelievable. This is crazy. This is peak European madness. And I kind of want to give it to Suh. It's crazy. So listen, I'm not gonna like this one. I know I'm jumping screens here, but this one match doesn't actually make me think Suh are gonna make playoffs. Like they definitely could. I fully believe they're not even they can. They're definitely in the fight to make playoffs. Don't get me wrong. But there is if you asked me before I started this, will Suh go 3-0? I'm like, there's no way I predict Suh to go in 3-0. But if this is the way it works out, if they play Husky, Caliente, and Top Cougars, I think they will go 3-0. I really think they would. I think that Top Cougars pull out another game 5, but Suh get the job done. They get the job done. That would be crazy. Similarly, just for the peak storytelling, I think 16 seed Karmine Corp will also go 3-0. I think they'll say they 3-1 BDS. It could be game 5, but I'm gonna give them 3-1 over BDS there, and that would be a shocking one. This would be a shocking one. Next up, we move on to the middle rounds here. Team 3 versus Redemption. Spicy, but Marked by 8 is back, man. It feels like his team is back, and I think they can clinch out over Redemption. Next up, Oxygen Endpoint. On paper, Oxygen is so good, but Endpoint's proven more recently. And Endpoint actually has beaten a top team. They beat Gentlemates last open qualifier. So I'm going to give it to Endpoint, and we'll say 3-1. Oh, what an unlucky matchup. It's Magnifico Vitality. And unlucky for Magnifico, after playing a game 5 against BDS, they draw Vitality. What luck is that? And unfortunately, it's going to be victory for Vitality. I think another one that I just see it going 3-1. Unfortunate. Again, very unfortunate for Vitality, but that's just the reality of it. Next up, Caliente versus Gentlemates. Unlucky, probably for Caliente. I could see Gentlemates again still with that fire burning. I think they managed to sweep that one. What a crazy bracket. It really is crazy. For anyone that's just joining in, I'm predicting the next regional, and I didn't intend for this to happen, but in my predictions, Suh go 3-0, and it really is just because of who they got into. They don't even sweep Husky, so it's not even like they start off with a sweep in my predictions. They managed to get lucky, draw Caliente, beat them in game 5. So again, not great game differential. It's not like I'm giving them great game differential on purpose. And then they get top Cougars. Like, it's madness. This is a Mickey run. But hey, Mickey runs have happened in RLCS. This wouldn't even be the craziest run. It wouldn't even be the craziest. And the reason why is Suh beat Karmine Corp. So it's actually not that crazy. Like, they earned it. They earned it, and I'll use quotes, but they kind of did. They earned it by beating Karmine Corp in open qual. All right, let's keep going. Unfortunately, we got to eliminate a couple teams, and I love Yukio. I've been a fan of his ever since I saw him Season 8 Worlds, the hair, but I think his team's gonna come up short here. I think Forward take it. I'm gonna call it 3-1. We'll give Oida a game at that point, but I'm gonna call it Forward's favor. And then next up here, a really spicy one because it's Belagol that made it all the way to round 5 versus a Hosky that took Gentlemates to game 5. And I'm going to go for the upset. I do think it would be an upset, but I'm going to give it to Hosky. I'm going to give it to Hosky, although I think Belagol make it go the distance there. And that's an unfortunate swing of events for Belagol. Next up here, ooh, a really spicy Endpoint BDS. We've seen Endpoint get upsets, but I think BDS close it out, close it down. And this is a great run for BDS because to be frank, beating Redemption, Magnifico, Endpoint is solid. Solid in Europe. All right, Ishan, I'll check them out after I'm finished with mine. They did. So if they get this bracket, it's like Suz luck bounce back. It's like the bad luck of Regional 1 was made up for with good luck in Regional 2 because everyone, you have to admit, this is great luck. They got Hosky, Caliente, and Top Cougars. Like, that is luck. That's quite lucky if it happens. Poor Magnifico, though, in this. But, all right, let's keep, I'll check out Jay. Magnifico should sweep the tournament. Well, Magnifico is a good team, but I have them unlucky running into BDS and Vitality back-to-back. That is just unlucky. I have them beating Endpoint, and then they just literally get unlucky. But the good news, we're going to skip ahead of it since you mentioned Magnifico, Jay. This is not an unlucky matchup for them, and I do think they're solidly head and tail over forward, so they make it on to the next round. Let's go back up here. This is a really interesting one because I think Team 3 and Top Cougars are both teams that actually could get top 8, like unironically. But if you lose here, you risk running into one of the good teams in the bottom, like Magnifico. So it's a real risk here. Like, this is a must win if you want to lock in top 8. And I want to believe in Top Cougars. I really do. I think Team 3 is good. They're good. But I don't know. I'm feeling this Top Cougars squad. I think they had a good run. If we go back to their run here, they didn't play a top team outside of Resolve, but Resolve is a top team, and I know Resolve didn't make this regional, but they were a team also in that round 5 last event. So if Resolve is a team making it to round 5 of Swiss, you could easily see Top Cougars doing the same, or in this case, making it through in round 4. And I believe it's definitely possible. Now, the unlucky one, Vitality Gentlemates. I mean, these two teams have had some unlucky seeding, especially Vitality. Running into Magnifico there. But hey, they run into each other again. And I think Gentlemates, I think they do it again. I don't think Vitality, now don't get me wrong. Vitality is still one of the big 4, and a loss to Caliente doesn't change that. But I'm going to give it to Gentlemates. I think they've looked really good, and I think they could take down a Vitality. Especially after getting motivated by a loss like that to Karmine Corp. All right, next up, Oxygen, Hosky. This is a tough one. This is a tough one because we were talking about it. Team Hosky took Gentlemates to game 5, and I totally see Hosky being able to turn that into a good Swiss run. But can they take down a solid but underperforming squad in Oxygen? This is like a really intriguing matchup. It's like the underrated underdogs going up on their first big run in the RLCS versus a team that should be comfortably top 8 but has struggled to make it. Welcome, Dawn. How are you doing? I'm doing great. We're predicting European RLCS. I'm having a great time. It's been a fun stream. I'm gonna give it to Oxygen. I really had to think about it, but if Archie doesn't make top 8 this regional, I'm just questioning if he's still at a top level, and I still have a little bit of faith for now. I do have a little bit of faith, but we'll give Hosky a game. Next up here, Caliente versus Redemption, and now on paper you favor Redemption, but this is a Caliente that took down Vitality earlier in the day by my estimations, and I really do believe in them. Let me look at these rosters again. So it's Caliente, is Sizen, Growly, and Pisky. Pisky, obviously the most unknown of the 3, but if I am remembering who this is, yeah, Whiskey Drink, this is who I think it is. He's been a solid 1v1 player, and he's French. That's really all you need to know, but he's played with players like Zen in these Rising Star Odyssey tournaments, in these Urban series, and in fact, in this Urban series, I believe he was playing with Zen. Let me check. No, he was playing with Chaussette and Casio, but still. So he is like a good player. He's won an Urban series. Maybe this is the one I was thinking of. Who is he playing with in this one? He was. So he has played with Zen and won a French LAN, a local LAN. So like, it's not a bad team. That said, they're playing Astral and Cash, Ivan as well, but notably Cash and Astral have been two top tier players in the past. A really good coach, Fruity, not to be under. I mentioned it. Having a good coach can be so important, and Caliente don't have a coach. That said, I appreciate it, Don. I'm glad you caught me live as well. That said, despite Redemption having the experience, having the solid coach, I want to do an upset, another one. And I know I already had Caliente with an upset, but we'll do another one. We say they take Redemption down in game 5. Alrighty. Oh, what some matchups. What matchups? And you know what? As much as I was trying to give Oxygen some credit, trying to build them up, they had some unfortunate losses, and it's led them to a date with Vitality in round 5. Not a team you want to see in round 5. And yeah, I think they smash Oxygen in a matchup like that with all the stakes. I think they lock in. Vitality lock in, sweep that one. Next up, and this is exactly what I meant. Team 3, a critical match against Top Cougars, goes to game 5. They lose, and they run into Magnifico. That is the unlucky matchup. You don't want to be playing Magnifico, a top team, and unfortunately, I do think Magnifico are going to take down Team 3. We'll give it game 5, but that's just an unlucky series of events, I'd say, for Team 3. But it really comes down to this is winnable. They just got to beat Top Cougars. And then to round out top 8, I am going to have Endpoint. Caliente, not a bad squad, but I think their run comes up just a bit short against a team like Endpoint that's proven to be a bit consistent, in my opinion. Especially if Endpoint does go to game 5 against a squad like BDS. All right. Whoa, what a bracket. What a bracket. What a bracket. That leaves us with Sub versus Endpoint for top 4. That is wild. And honestly, the wildest part of all is even a team like Sub, but especially a team like Endpoint, is in the running for the major. The big 4 are not locked in. We'd all like to think they are, but when a matchup like this is possible, Gentlemaids versus Vitality in quarterfinals, when a matchup like that is possible, nothing is a given, and your major spot is not locked in. And this is wild. This is wild. This is crazy. I'm gonna start off with the easier ones. I think these top 2 matches are easier than the bottom 2, and I think most people would agree with me. I'm gonna have Karmine Corp. Magnifico, though, not a bad team. I'm gonna give them a couple of games. They could take it to game 7. They could even win. I think I've already mentioned it. The big 4 are closer together than I thought, and they're also not as far ahead as I thought, to be frank. But on Championship Sunday, well, this is actually Saturday. On Saturday, I think Karmine Corp lock in. They make it to Championship Sunday. I think they take down Magnifico. Next up, honestly, it's a similar story. Top Cougars theoretically could win on a good day, but I think BDS lock in, and it's another semifinal matchup between Karmine Corp and BDS. But still a good performance from Top Cougars to even make it to top 8. A bit surprising. Similarly, surprising for Sa to be here. Not crazy, but what is crazy is they're playing Endpoint. They're playing Endpoint, and I think this is a toss-up. On paper, I favor Endpoint. I think especially in recent times, if we look at this Endpoint squad, Arju, Smokes, Matane, it's a squad that's last season without Arju, they made it to Gamers 8. They played well all season. Then they add in Arju. They replaced a player. I'm not gonna remember who on Monkeys that got replaced, but Arju and Matane have played together in the past, and they've just looked really solid. I think Andy the Mandy's a better coach than I thought. I've been looking into it, and I think he's actually been showing up with some of his teams, and I think he's improving their play. That said, they're playing a Sa that is on a run. And a Sa squad that is coached by another coach I recognize, because Eclipse is actually the former coach of Endpoint, which is another thing that makes this a bit poetic. Eclipse literally was Endpoint's coach for a very long time, a different team, but the org. So a bit ironic of a matchup. And if they're on a run like this, you gotta favor Sa. Like, again, Endpoint easily could win, and I'll be rooting for Endpoint if this happens. but I want the Cinderella run to keep going. Game 7 win for Suh. It's just a Cinderella one. At this point, it's a bit of a Mickey run, but hey, Mickey runs all, you know, still count all the same. And for the record, this is a Caliente that made it to round 5. This is a Top Cougars that made it to top 8. So it really isn't that crazy. It's not that crazy. So we'll say Suh to top 4. Hey, crazier things have happened, right? Suh to top 4. Next up is Gentlemates Vitality. And I know earlier on I had Gentlemates beat Vitality, but I think Saturday is where things turn around. And I think Vitality do come out on top of a Gentlemate squad that frankly got the shaft. They had to start off playing Karmine Corp, and they also had to play Vitality. And then what do they get rewarded with by beating Vitality by going to game 5 with Karmine Corp? A rematch with Vitality in the quarterfinals. So that's just an unlucky draw for Gentlemates. Next up here, BDS versus Karmine Corp, and I really want an upset to happen. I really would like it. It would be fun, but I don't see it. I think BDS, their best shot was literally last semifinals. I think they dropped the ball. They lost in game 7 in a series they had to lead in against Karmine Corp. They let Karmine Corp come back into it. I think it was a reverse sweep if I'm not mistaken. That reverse sweep should have never happened. BDS should have won, even potentially in a sweep, and I don't think they're gonna get that chance again. I think that book is closed. I think Karmine Corp wins. On the flip side, though, Vitality versus Suh. I would love... Oh, John, great question. Am I happy with the growth of the channel? Yeah, so honestly, there was a point where I was trying to grow. And I still want the channel to grow, but I've realized that's not what I'm doing it. I'm not doing this to make money. So I don't need to rush into the higher tiers of monetization, any of that. I'm just doing this for fun, and I want people to watch the videos because I want people to enjoy them. So I'm focusing on making better quality content rather than, and the views will come because they're better quality content in the videos. So that's why the videos aren't as frequent. I'm doing higher quality but less frequent videos instead of trying to spam them out. On the flip side, the streams, I know people really enjoyed the watch party, and the show matches. And there's a bunch I could have done with that, but the time investment for me wasn't worth it because I was like, what am I doing this for? If I'm doing it for the views, I should keep doing, but I'm doing it for what's fun for me, and the show matches weren't as enjoyable, especially the tournaments. I know people love the tournaments, but they were a lot of work for me and I was not enjoying them as much. That's why we haven't really done them since. But these are fun. I love talking about RLCS. Andy Demandy coached Monkeys 5 different times. That's actually hilarious. He has stuck with the same team for a while, if I'm not mistaken. Now, the players on that team have changed a lot, but he's stuck with the Monkeys, like you said, for a bit, and it's always been players subbing in and out. All right, enough said. Let's talk about this matchup. The Cinderella run for Suh is going to end at some point. It could end in a win, but I don't think it does. I think it ends here. It was a really well-fought run, a really hard-fought win against Endpoint, and I don't think they're going to get blown out of the water. I don't think it'll be a blowout, but they do lose to Vitality, and it's a pretty comfortable win for Vitality. It could even be 4-1. Vitality could easily be, but I think Suh take at least a game. I'm going to give them 2. But that leaves us with a grand final that a lot could have expected. Karmine Corp versus Vitality. But one thing I think will change is I think Vitality, not Karmine Corp, will emerge as champions this time. And just because, for the heck of it, because it would be fun, we'll call it a game 7. I think Vitality managed to close it out this time, and I think Karmine Corp could easily be the 1 seed. They could easily win, you know, the next one, be the 1 seed out of Europe. But I think Vitality take this one and put some pressure for that overall number 1 seed going into the major. Alrighty, that's it. I have Vitality as my champions, Karmine Corp as my runners-up, BDS and Suh of all teams in my semifinals. I really did not expect Suh to be the semifinals. If you told me this before we started filming today, I would have been like, no, there's no way. But there is a way. It's just a very... This is like, you know, the movie where, the Marvel movie where Doctor Strange looks and there's millions of outcomes and only one. And only one do they win. There is like only one outcome where some make top 4, and it feels like this is it. But hey, maybe the one outcome happens and they get to semifinals. Similarly, top 8 is rounded out by Magnifico, Top Cougars, Endpoint, and Gentlemates. Now, something I like to look at is how do the points look after this? And these are the points. So interestingly, we still have our top 4, which is solid, the big 4. But Sa and Endpoint and Magnifico, sorry, are all tied for that 5th spot, and they're still within spitting distance of BDS Gentlemates. All it takes is a grand final run by one of these squads, and they could make the major or force a tiebreaker. BDS and Gentlemates are not out of the woods yet, but you know who is out of the woods if this was the case? Karmine Corp and Vitality. They are solidly ahead of the pack, and I believe Karmine Corp might be a lock for the major after this with these standings. I don't know for sure, but I believe they'd be a lock. Theoretically, they could somehow get Husky, Oida, and Belagal. I know they could get an easier run, but let's be real. Husky, Oida, Belagal. I mean, the odds that one of those 3 teams goes 2-0 is very low, in my opinion. But obviously, there's other. I'm just saying it feels like that meme. So if they play well, make major. Well, actually, that would be the crazy thing of all, because like I said, Sa in this scenario is in the running to make a major. And if we change up this result here, let's say something even crazier happens and they beat Vitality. Now they really have a shot. Now they really have a shot because suddenly they have 15 points and 3 teams have 18 points. And suddenly, oh my goodness, they're within spitting distance of making the major. So for Sa, if they really did go on a Cinderella run, which I want to remind folks, this is very, very unlikely. Like, I really don't see it. It's very unlikely. But there is a world where Sa makes the major and it doesn't take them winning the regionals. It doesn't take them winning the regionals. Obviously, it takes them getting far, but they wouldn't have to win for that to happen. So this is how I think it would go. I want to make sure I had all these back to the way they were. And it's an interesting standings. Other things to note, top 16 now rounded out by Husky and Caliente, taking over some of these other teams, but Moist is still in the top 16 because of that top 8 last time. Belagal as well, top Cougars. I mean, forward for that matter. It's some interesting teams here in the top 16. And the team just outside top 8 is Oxygen after 2 round 5 Swiss finishes. So some interesting performances here, and we'll have to see if this is the reality or if it goes another way. Alrighty, we're gonna do one more thing and then I'm gonna look at some predictions in a viewer. So if you want me to look at your prediction, first of all, check out my Discord. The link gets spammed every so often by the bot, but join my Discord and send in my Discord chat your predictions and I'll look at them on stream. Only point they don't is if they miss the whole thing and don't get top 64 plus one of the teams with 12 points win the whole thing. I gotcha. Yeah. So it's like basically a lock for Karmine Corp if this happens, which makes sense. It should be. If you win a regional and get second, you should make the major unless you like completely miss getting any points at all. They would have been top 5. So that's a good point. If Sa had 3 more points, they would be 15 points. And if they make the the grand finals, they would be tied with Vitality, BDS, Gentlemates at that point. So, yep, that'd be interesting. It would be interesting. Alrighty. With that in mind, let's move on to pick stop. So 8 teams to advance to the next stage, and to be frank, I'm just going to use my results here because I always think it's better to go with it. So Karmine Corp, Gentlemates, BDS. This is a bit surprising, but we're going to do it anyway. Who am I missing? There's 6. I'm missing 2 teams. I'm missing top Cougars and Gentlemates. How did I miss Gentlemates? All right. Teams that go 3-0. This is not going to happen, but if it does, I'll look like a genius. I will look like a genius if it does. And then teams that go 0-3, I have Belagal and Oida. Probably not Belagal, but hey, that's what I had. I thought I am logged in. Well, that's odd. All right, let's do it again. Now I gotta log in. This is annoying. Sorry guys, trying to log into Pick Stop. Yep, join the Discord, folks. Banned live? No, I'm not banned. It just it keeps doing this thing where I open Pick Stop and then I've had it open so long it logs me out. That's what's happening. But I always forget I gotta refresh. And then I gotta do like I'll just tell you guys, I'm logging in through Reddit to get into Pick Stop. So I gotta take it off screen to log in. Alright. Which, speaking of that, if you do Pick Stop, you can join the Reddit League if you want to get a flare on the subreddit if you win. Alright, let's keep going here. We are predicting the 8 teams that will make it. Is it 8 teams? Make sure I got it right. I do. Teams that go 3-0. It would be crazy if it happens. Crazy if it happens. And then go 0-3 is Belgal and Oida. There we go. There's my predictions. So a reminder for you guys, how do I check my most recent? Let me go past. In my last ones, I got top 40, top 42 points, which is pretty bad, but it's literally, it's only bad because I predicted a Genji versus M80 Grand Final instead of G2. And that's my bad. That's on me. That's on me. I don't think it's that crazy that I didn't have Luminosity, but anyway. Alright, so now we're done. We're going to start checking out predictions from viewers. So we've got a couple ones here. I see one from Abax and I see one from Twisted. Oh, access denied. So you're going to need to just send me a picture, Abax. Send me a picture. Alright, here we go. The Twisted Tide predictions. So folks, Twisted Tide, a viewer in chat, these are his predictions. Let's see what he thought. So things that jump out at me is he actually had Gentlemates in the grand finals against Vitality, but he also had a Vitality win, and he only had Karmine Corp losing to Vitality in the playoffs, so not too crazy. He also had Endpoint Magnifico in the playoffs, but he also had Oxygen Belagal. That's a surprise, and probably more surprising is that he had BDS lose to Oxygen. That is a surprise, but for them to make semis. I'm going to remind you, Twisted, that I predicted Oxygen to make semis last regional, and they bombed. So after I predicted them to literally be top 4 and they didn't get it, I am severely disappointed in that squad. So if they make top 4 now, I'm just going to feel like an idiot because I predicted them to make top 4 at the wrong time. But anyway, and another huge surprise, a team I have going 0-3, you have making it in round 4. So let's look at the run here. Belagal beating Oxygen, not that crazy. Could happen for sure. Beating Team 3, also not that crazy. Definitely could happen. You have them lose to BDS. I see it. The one that's a bit surprising to me is that they get 3 upset wins. I just don't see it. I think a team like Endpoint at that point in the tournament, a team Endpoint that is at this point beat Forward, beat Team 3, only lost in round 1 to Magnifico. I would have an Endpoint over Belagal there, but I see it. It's not that crazy. Not that crazy at all to see them in top 8. And I said it, any team can make it to the playoffs, and I believe it, including Belagal. Let's look at some of these other matchups. You have Suh losing, and in fact, you have Suh losing to Oxygen right here in top 8, which is feels like I would favor Suh, but I get it. I get it. Oxygen, not a bad team. Not a bad team. You also had Suh, unfortunately, playing Vitality. That's a bit unlucky, but they beat Top Cougars. They also, in round 2, they beat Redemption, so not too crazy. You have Caliente, a team I had beating Vitality, losing to Redemption to go out 0-3, but you also had Caliente taking it to Game 5 against Vitality. Oida there also going out 0-3, my 0-3. Probably some of the biggest changes is Hosky making all the way to round 5. You've got, all right, I might have had, no, I had Hosky out in round 4, so not that, I guess not that crazy. Yeah, it's really just your Oxygen run and your lack of faith in Suh, I guess. But again, nothing too crazy at all there. So nice predictions from Twisted. We have the same champion. We have 6 of the same top 8 teams. We have, well, we only have 2 of the same top 4 teams, but in part that's because I had Gentlemates versus Vitality early. So I don't disagree with Gentlemates beating Belagal and Oxygen. I agree with that much. So, alrighty. let me see if we got another message from Abax. I believe he is, yes, he has sent his prediction image, so let's pull it up. This here is the prediction from Abax. So he also has a Vitality win, and he also has Karmine Corp in the grand finals, but a bit different. He has Gentlemates and Team 3 there. Gentlemates didn't have to play Vitality though, so not too crazy. He also had Magnifico, and Endpoint. So a very similar top 8. The only difference is he has Team 3, and not only does he have Team 3, he has them beating BDS to make semifinals. So that's a big difference there, the biggest difference really. Other than that, very similar top 8. Probably some of the biggest surprise, if you look here, he has Hosky out in 0-3, not too crazy. He has Belagal just making it run round further. Top Cougars, he has out a bit early, that's a bit of a surprise. But not too crazy. He has Oxygen make it to round 5 like I had. Another interesting one, so he does have Subby Hosky. He also has going to this top 3 roundup, and he also has them facing Team 3, if I remind myself. Actually, I had them facing Top Cougars, but still, not too crazy to see a matchup like Sub versus Team 3, and that means one of them was bound to go 3-0. In his case, he has Team 3. I had Sun, not too crazy at all. He also had Endpoint beat Sun in a game 5, and I totally see it. I know I had Sub beat Endpoint in playoffs, but like I mentioned, Endpoint's a very solid squad that could easily beat them. Top middle is Vitality. What you mean? No, I gotcha. Vitality, yeah, that is interesting, Sean. We both had Vitality going 3-2, but if I look back, you had Vitality lose to Karmine Corp and Gentlemates. So, similar to me, except I had Karmine Corp playing, who'd they play? Team 3. I guess I didn't have Karmine Corp face a bad team early, but really, this round 1 with the round 1 matchup, Gentlemates versus Karmine Corp, makes everything unfair. Because then Vitality, who, yeah, they won in game 5, but having to play Karmine Corp in round 2 is just unfair. And, like, objectively, I'd argue. Pretty objectively unfair. And that's what gets them the round 4 matchup against Gentlemates, who also, Gentlemates only lost to Karmine Corp. So, pretty crazy, but not unexpected. And despite that, they got a winnable matchup against Magnifico in the quarterfinals. All right. With that, is there anybody else? Welcome, Garcello Gamer. I'm doing great. How are you doing today? Well, you already said it. You're doing good. That's good to hear, Garcello. Always good. We have done some RLCS predictions. I've already finished out mine. We're getting viewer predictions. If you want to give your prediction, just make sure to join the Discord. Leave it there. I don't believe we have any others. I'm going to quickly check the chat. No, we don't. So if nobody else has their predictions, we'll probably just close out stream by chatting. Talking over the potential for RLCS, and I think probably the big debate, well, there's 2 things we can talk about. So number 1, some teams have qualified for the major. Let's talk about that. A few teams have already qualified. G2 Stride made it out of NA. They are guaranteed. They are a lock. They could bomb out and lose their first 2 matches of the open qualifier, like without even making top 64, and it wouldn't matter. They'd still be at the major. Power, same deal. They are locked in, doesn't matter how they do. And also Team Falcons. So none of these are a surprise. At the beginning of the season, I totally would have seen Power and Team Falcons. The one that's a surprise to be locked in, not that they made it, but to lock in first, for me, it was G2. I really believed in Genji. I thought Genji would be the better squad, but I'm very comfortable saying now that G2 is clearly the best team in NA. I think that is obvious. It doesn't take an analyst to tell you that. They've won 2 regionals in a row, but it's not just the way it's not just that they've won, it's the way they're winning. And I really think they look the best NA has looked in a while. Now, I don't think that means they're going to be a semi-final team at the major for sure, but they definitely have a chance of making it there. And I think you'd be underestimating them to say they're clearly outside the top 5 or anything like that, because they're clearly in that conversation to win a major. And it's just the question is, are they good enough? And we won't know until we see them on land. And honestly, same thing for Falcons. They have looked really good in MENA. They've looked pretty clear of their competition, and I think they're among the conversation to win a major. Now, they probably have the biggest hurdles to overcome. A MENA team from the Middle East, that is, hasn't made a grand final since over a season ago, but it has been done. So it wouldn't be too crazy to see them in the running to win the major. And I really do believe they're in that top 5 conversation, top 6, I should say, I guess, because it includes the top 4 teams out of Europe, G2, and Falcons. Power, of all the teams that have qualified so far, they are the least good. They're not a bad team, but frankly, Torsos, Fever, the fact that they're still the top of Oceania is telling to the fact that OCE has not really made a super team in too long. They're good players, but they are not going to be making top 8 at the major. I hate to say it, I hate to be so defeatist about OCE, but OCE has just not looked good. And I'm just going to come out and say, I think there is no way this squad gets top 8 and makes it out of Swiss. Maybe they make me eat my words, but I don't see them making it out of Swiss. They easily could get a win. They could beat the APAC team, the SSA team. They could even get a win over one of the South American, Middle East, or even one of the NAEU teams. But I don't think they have it in them to get 3 wins in Swiss. I just don't see it. I don't see it. Best case, they make it to round 5 in Swiss and drop out just before top 8 playoffs. OCE worse than APAC? Hey, there's a reality that they play a game in Gladiators and lose. And I want to talk about APAC because no team is locked it in from APAC. There's only 1 spot, so they wouldn't have locked it in anyway. But really interesting to know, we have a tie. Elevate and Gaming Gladiators have both gotten 1 top 4 and 1 win. And that means that technically speaking, this 3rd place team is not out of it either, but it really is a running here between Elevate and Gaming Gladiators. Gaming Gladiators it's not the teams you would expect. Gaming Gladiators is the same team we've come to know and love, Virtuoso, and realize they were on Elevate last season. Meanwhile, Elevate is a different squad. It is LCT, Kevin, and Sphinx. Now, this might come as a shock if you haven't heard these names before, but LCT been at the top of the region, made it to a major before, made it to Worlds before. Kevin has not, but he has been a big name in APAC. So Kevin, probably most famous for having been in multiple Sunless Con videos as a pro out of APAC. He is a really solid player. The most unknown for me is Sphinx. I don't know a lot about Sphinx, but I do know that this squad has won a regional and they could easily make it. That said, their biggest competition here is obviously this squad. Now, it looks like 2 Europeans, but it really is just 1. Maxu, although he is of European descent, he has been living in APAC for most of his life, or at least he's been only playing out of APAC. He's never played in any other region of RLCS, and he's been living in APAC since the get-go of RLCS, the beginning, a couple seasons ago. So, a really interesting squad, and I think something that doesn't get mentioned often enough is that Marky Duda is this team's coach. He is a really solid coach. He coached the other Gaming Gladiators last season. Now he's coaching Realize Virtuoso, and they're joined by Maxu. To be frank, the fact that they got out top 4 in Regional 1 was a huge slap in the face, because I think this squad is the heavy favorites out of APAC. And if they don't make the major, that's just stunning, because they really should be. Like, they're the best team on paper, and I know paper's not everything. You can burn the paper, but really, a team like this should be making the major. And really, when you say OC is going to lose to APAC, this is the squad I'm assuming you're imagining, because this squad could beat OC, for sure. Realize and Virtuoso proved that last season when they beat G1. They have beaten a European team, a top 6 European team, and I truly believe they've got what it takes, or maybe top 7 rather, but still, this squad's got what it takes to make it far in the Swiss. I think they will suffer the same fate as Power, though. I don't think they make top 8. I would love it. I would love to see it, but I don't think they will. All right, so enough about this team, though. Let's get back to talking about the major. Another one to look at is the ranking here in Sub-Saharan Africa. It is a dead heat between Ninjas in Pajamas, Complexity, Furia. Theoretically, Furia should be favored, and they probably will make it, but all it takes is a poor showing by them, where they get top 4, they get semifinals, a world where Ninjas in Pajamas wins the regional over Complexity in the grand finals, and we have a 3-way tie. So a 3-way tie here is very possible. We could also see a Complexity Furia break away, but we'll have to see what happens. It's really wide open for any of these 3 teams to claim the spots. And although Furia looks the best, I will say, I don't underestimate Complexity and don't underestimate Ninjas in Pajamas. I think they could take down Furia. Complexity have taken down Furia. The region is ripe for the taking. It's anyone's game. All right, next up here, let's talk about Sub-Saharan Africa. So this is a region that doesn't get talked about a lot, and for good reason. I know it's a region that doesn't get a lot of conversation, but the big battle has been between Young Money Clan and Limitless. And Limitless have won the battle. They've won 2 regionals, and now all they gotta do is make top 8, I believe. Just make it out of Swiss, and they are locked in to the major. Or maybe it's 1 win in Swiss. It's something tiny. Like, they really don't need a lot of points. And it's gonna happen. Like, I don't see any world where Limitless drop out in open quals and don't make it to top 16. So I believe Limitless are gonna win the next regional, but even if they don't, they're definitely making it far enough to qualify for the major. And this is really just goes to show you that if you think it's a gimme to make it to major out of SSA, you are wrong. These are European players that are playing online in Sub-Saharan Africa, and they weren't good enough. They were not good enough. They were quite good, don't get me wrong. They're making it to semifinals, to grand finals, but they haven't been good enough to win them. They're not going to take the major spot. Now, something that is interesting, this squad has been playing online, but for the last regional of the season, they're flying out. They're actually going to fly out to Reunion, which is a French island in Africa. They're going to fly out to Africa to compete in the final regional and boot camp. I don't think the boot camp's going to get them to win, but maybe it does. Even if it does, they're not going to go this major. Now, I think the interesting thing here is they said if they go to the boot camp and they win the regional, they'll boot camp all next split. And hey, maybe next split they make the major, but I think it's too little too late, to be frank. I think if they were serious about making the major, they should have been flying out and boot camping the whole season. And I know it would be on their own dime. They're not sponsored by an org, but if they wanted to make the major, that's what it takes out of SSA. And so that brings us to the final region, or final 2 regions, I should say, is EU and NA. Or actually, no, let's quickly finish up talking about OCE and MENA, because we talked about the top teams. But let's talk about the second place. And MENA, it's pretty clear-cut Rule 1. However, they have looked shaky in a lot of matches. It is not going to be a gimme that they make the major. They've looked quite shaky. And all it takes is an early exit in Swiss, which is unlikely, to be fair. But hey, 1 early exit in Swiss and 5-head, Infinity, R8, Twisted Minds, they're all in the running to take out Rule 1 and claim that spot. On the other side of things, OCE is wide open. Power has been the clear favorites. That's why they're locked in. But Chiefs, Gremlins, Quick Trip Pioneers, Ground Zero, Kaka's Minions, all these teams are within 3 points of each other and are well within the race to take that last spot. If they make the grand final and the right teams don't make semis, they can make it. Now, it's a lot harder for Ground Zero and Kakas. They probably would have to play a tiebreaker even if they made it to the grand finals against Power. But it is definitely within their hands. It's within their hands to force a tiebreaker and win it. So we'll see if they can do it. On the other side of the hands, hey, Chiefs, Gremlins, Pioneers, they also can easily claim the major spot just by making it to grand finals or winning the regional, depending on if Power make it there. I could easily see Power, now that they clinched the major spot, dropping in semis unexpectedly or even in quarterfinals because the pressure's off. They've made the major. So we'll have to see what happens. I'm quickly checking your predictions. Sean, you say K-Corp, Vitality, BDS, Gentlemates. Easy, obviously enough from EU. You also predict Power, Pioneers, Furia, Complexity, Falcons, Infinity. Really? You think Infinity are going to be able to overcome? I mean, I was just saying how it's definitely possible. But again, Rule 1, I believe if they make top 8, they clinch. Do you really think Infinity... Oh, let me correct myself. They clinch unless Infinity wins. But do you think Infinity is going to beat Falcons, or do you think Rule 1's going to get out in Swiss? Like, which way do you think it's going to go? That Infinity take out Rule 1? Because that is very unlikely. You think, okay, if you think they choke in Swiss, it's definitely possible. All it takes is a choke in Swiss and the spot's open. Gladiators and Limitless, I agree with those two. Although I do think Elevate have a chance at taking down Gladiators. All right, let's talk about NA and EU. So the big bad wolves, the top 2 regions historically. G2 is locked it in. I think Gen G is pretty much a lock. It's not a guarantee, but they're effectively locked in. I think they just need like 1 win in Swiss. And Luminosity, all they got to do is make top 8, if I'm not mistaken. And that, I think they'll do it. To be frank, I think they got it. I think they got this one in the bag. They're gonna, I don't know if they'll do better than that, but I think they make top 8. I think they're locked in for the major. So it really comes down to one spot, which is wide open. Dignitas, M80, OG, Pirates on a Boat, Space Station, NRG, even Shopify is within reach. I know TSM's there as well, but TSM is 4 points behind Dignitas. So even if TSM won the regional, they might need a tiebreaker. So that's a lot. That's a lot. And I don't think TSM has realistically got a shot. So I would argue the running here is between, what is this, 7 teams for one spot. And of the 7 teams, obviously you're looking to the teams that are 12 points and above. You're looking to your Space Stations, your Dignitas, your M80, maybe OG or Pirates on a Boat. But I think most people are picking one of these 3. Either Space Station, Dignitas, or M80 will claim the last spot. And I think it's going to be M80. Now, I could easily be wrong, but I'm going to claim M80 finally get past quarterfinals and get a win on Saturday. And once they're in the semis, I think they can make grand finals. I predicted they won a regional last regional, and I was wrong, but I know they have it in them. They could win a regional. Obviously they'll have to take down the Titans in G2, but when G2 are playing with less pressure, they've already made the major. I could see it happening. If Pirates on a Boat make it, Achieves is a legend. So listen, don't get me wrong. 5UP is a GOAT. Like, he's gonna be a top tier player one day. I have no doubt. Andy's already made majors before. Eris, he's probably the biggest surprise for me. I really didn't think Eris had it in him, but he is playing up to that level. However, I want to highlight Coach Achieves because unironically, I had no idea how you would do as coach, but you have to, like, there's no way he is not part of the reason they're doing so well. Like, I think unironically, his coaching is elevating this squad. Now, obviously, we'll never know for sure. It's hard to know what coaches do in a volatile esport like Rocket League, but come on, they have been consistent. Bubble teams in NA are never consistent, and somehow this squad has back-to-back top 8s and hasn't been blown out. Like, I know they've lost pretty handily in the quarterfinals, but they were never blown out. They never looked like they had no idea what they were doing. And I think that comes down to Achieves. I think he's been an excellent coach, and he's proven it with this Pirates on a Boat squad. So if they made the major, that would be so funny. We would see Achieves on LAN as a coach. That is gold. That is gold. So I'd be happy for him. All right, next up, Europe. Now, this one, it feels obvious, right? BDS, Vitality, Gentlemates, Karmine Corp. Should be easy. However, I really do believe that Team 3, Magnifico, and Endpoint could snipe the spot away. It's not impossible. They could snipe the spot away. However, I'm gonna predict these 4 because I think the reality is our semifinals are much more likely to be these 4 over and over again than anybody else sneaking in. And when EU is so crazy that a team like SA could sneak in, it's like, okay, I mean, if a team like SA makes semis, then it's even more likely these guys locking it. So I'm going to argue Karmine Corp, Gentlemates, BDS, and Vitality. All right. That is all for the major predictions so far, and really just recapping where we're at. And that brings us to the end of the stream today. If you guys have anything you want to talk about, now's the time to let me know. Otherwise, we'll chill for a little bit and then we'll hop off. It's been a fun stream, a late one, but it's been a fun one. I think I will probably not stream tomorrow, but I will try and stream on Saturday. Maybe a watch party if I get a chance to, maybe not. But it's gonna be a fun tournament of Rocket League. I'm gonna be working. If I don't stream, I want to stream. I think I will. But if I don't, I'll be working on the video, so don't you worry. It's going to take a while to come out, but the next video, whenever it goes live, it's going to be a banger. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm really excited about it. And, man, editing has been a slog, but like in a good way. In a way where it's like, I got to get back to editing because it's been so fun. All right, guys, I'm going to end it here. I hope you guys enjoyed the stream. Unfortunately, we don't have enough people to raid somebody, but go find your other favorite, besides me, obviously, your favorite. I'm just kidding. Go find another Rocket League creator you love and go watch them. All right. That's going to end it, though. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you have a great evening, and I'll see you guys on Saturday or next time, whenever it is I see you. Have a good one. Thanks for watching. Thanks for all your supporting. I really want to thank these in the chat. Sean, you know, you and Funi, some of my biggest supporters, again, made this new microphone possible. I don't know if I can get it in screen. I don't want to mess with my setup, but it's a really nice microphone and I really appreciate it. So thank you guys so much. I'll see you guys next time. Get the button lined up. And yep. Have a good night. See you guys.